Hey, what is up, everybody, and welcome to our Mystic Road Trip. It's Monday, so you know that means it's all about magic. This is a podcast where I talk about spiritual, mystical, magical, wellness, anything that can fall under the umbrella of woo-woo. That's what I talk about here. My name is Kim. I'm a tarot reader, an astrologer, a holistic dietitian, a meditation guy, a life coach, all of that good stuff. Working on even more stuff to kind of come forward with. But most of all, I am just a spiritual, magical, mystical traveler trying to find my path. And I thought that I'd bring you guys along with me as I learn all kinds of new stuff, and hopefully I can help you guys on your path as well. That's what my calling seems to be, is to be a teacher, to share my information, to share my knowledge with those of you that want to listen, and hopefully we'll get more people listening. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, and that is it. That's pretty much the spiel on the podcast and myself. If you want to reach out to me, you can do that too. There's ways to do that in the description box, and there's ways to support the podcast. I would just appreciate a rate, review, follow, and share maybe. That would be awesome. So what are we talking about this week? It's Monday, so that means we're going to talk about something not tarot related. Thursdays are for tarot. On Thursdays, I have Tarot Thursday, and that is basically where I take one card a week and we kind of chit-chat about it and learn some new stuff and all that good stuff. But today, it's about magic. Today, we're talking about glyphs. And that's something I'm just now getting into. I know that sounds weird. I've been into magic for a while, but glyphs I just never really gotten into. But recently I've kind of saw some cool stuff on it, and I started researching it and found out that they're pretty dope. They're pretty dope, and I'm getting ready to really dive deeper into them. But before we talk about the main subject of the week, as usual, we're going to start with our week in the stars, and this is basically where I take a look at some astrological movements in the sky, and I talk about the energies that come with them, and maybe give you a little guidance on how to handle them, you know? So, let's get started, shall we? I was going to pause for a second because I thought I was going to sneeze, but it didn't happen. So here we go. Let's start with tomorrow, Tuesday, February 25th. Mercury is in Pisces, is conjunct Saturn in Pisces, and the moon enters Aquarius. So let's talk about each of those, right? So with the Mercury and Saturn both in Pisces being conjunct, it's going to bring kind of this grounding influence to your thoughts and communication. You know, Mercury in Pisces is dreamy and intuitive. It's Pisces, right? While Saturn is kind of disciplined and structured. You know, when these two kind of meet up, there's potential to bring a lot of clarity and a lot of focus, especially around creative ideas. It's really a good time to take any abstract thoughts or spiritual insights you've been having and start pulling them into like practical, more actionable plans. Basically what I'm saying is use this energy to turn your dreams into tangible objects. You know, write down your thoughts, make plans, don't be afraid to commit to long-term projects. But, and this is a but, definitely be mindful not to get too caught up in perfectionism. You know, Saturn sometimes has that happen. So, you know, balance the imaginative with the practical. And sometimes that can be challenging, but I think you guys can do it. The moon is also going to enter Aquarius. So this is going to shift the energy more towards intellectual, innovative, unconventional thoughts. You may feel a bit detached, and you're likely to feel more comfortable focusing on ideas and the bigger picture rather than like personal and emotional matters. Maybe this energy could help you think outside of the box and look at new progressive approaches to things that are challenging you. It's really a great day for brainstorming, for group activities. So anything where you're going to like engage with others that may have a different perspective, it's actually a really great day for that. So, you know, how do you use all this? Maybe, you know, get a think tank together. I don't know, go out with some girlfriends, share the ideas that you've had, kind of thing. Make your dreams and everything more tangible, right? All right, so we are going to fast forward to Friday, February 28th, and the moon in Pisces is in conjunct Mercury in Pisces. There's a lot of Pisces action here happening here, okay? So when the moon meets Mercury and both of them are in Pisces, it's going to be really difficult to tell different emotions and thoughts. I don't know if that, I hope that makes sense, right? And that could bring out around a pretty intuitive and emotionally charged state. So it can make you feel more sensitive. It can allow you to tune in to things that you haven't been able to tune in, especially for those around you. It's a great day for creative expression, of course, writing, art, whatever form, form of communication that lets you connect with others. Embrace your intuition. Anytime, for me, anytime Pisces comes in, just embrace your intuition, trust your guts. Try not to get too lost, though, in the emotional tides. You could become very overly absorbed in other people's energies, and that could be a problem. So maybe it's a good day for self-care and just to kind of ground yourself if you need it. And finally, well, no, I take that back. I forgot this day. I'm looking at my script, guys. So Saturday, March 1st, Venus retrograde begins in Aries. Okay, so retrograde, don't be scared. I know when you hear the term retrograde, everybody freaks out. But, let's look at this in this way. So Venus rules love, beauty, and relationships, right? So when it goes retrograde, it's giving everybody time to reevaluate these areas. Venus in Aries is the interesting part, because there's going to be more of a focus on self-love and assertiveness in relationships and revisiting personal desires. You could find yourself reflecting on past relationships, or maybe looking at unresolved issues. And you may find yourself wanting to have a little bit more of an independent love life. I would say during Venus retrograde, don't rush into new romantic commitments. Take time to review your past relationships, include how you express your love and all that kind of stuff. It's a good time for introspection, but don't make any permanent decisions just yet. And for those that are in a relationship, the same rule applies. Introspect, don't make permanent decisions just yet, right? Please, okay? All right, and finally, on Sunday, March 2nd, Mercury in Pisces conjuncts Neptune in Pisces. The Sun is in Pisces, square Jupiter in Gemini. That's a lot of Pisces action with a little Gemini sprinkled in. So let's take this one by one. Mercury in Pisces conjunct Neptune in Pisces. Okay, so it's going to heighten your intuitive and imaginative capabilities, right? It's a great time for creative projects, spiritual pursuits, new ideas, whatever. There is a risk, though, of confusion or misunderstanding, because Neptune can sometimes blur lines between reality and fantasy. So, embrace your creativity and intuition, but don't make major decisions, especially in places where you have to be super clear on it. If you have any twinge of uncertainty, just take a step back and give yourself some time to process before making any decisions. Now let's look at Sun in Pisces square Jupiter and Gemini. Squares, right? We're duking it out. This is very challenging. It could create a lot of tension between your desire for personal growth and the urge to expand your horizons. So the Sun in Pisces wants to explore deeper, right? It's Pisces, spiritual side of life. Jupiter in Gemini, though, thrives in intellectual curiosity and communication. So the square could lead to an overindulgence in ideas or a restlessness, because you could find yourself being pulled in a lot of different ways. This aspect could encourage growth, right? But it also could lead to confusion. So, and maybe a little tendency to overcommit. So it's a good day to focus on broadening your mind. Just don't spread yourself too thin, and prioritize what truly resonates with you rather than trying to do everything at once, right? Just one thing at a time, take your time, right? I think that'll help you out. And that's it, guys. That's it for our week in the stars. I hope a little bit of look at the energies and everything is helping you out. And now we can get started on the main topic. So let's do it. All right, guys. So like I said, let's get started on the main topic. So if you've ever seen a symbol that kind of caught your eye, right? And you wonder what it means, that was probably a glyph, right? Glyphs are symbols or characters that convey a deeper meaning. They've been around for centuries, ancient Egypt, all the way to modern day logos, right? You could say that glyphs are kind of like ancient versions of emojis, but maybe a little bit more powerful. I don't know. I've had some emojis delivered to me that were pretty powerful. All right, so at the core of glyphs, they're basically symbols packed with meaning, right? Secret code. They speak directly to the mind and soul. So not fancy squiggles, not fancy doodles. They're usually carefully crafted to represent something far deeper than meets the eye, right? It can stand for a concept, a sound, or an abstract idea. Whatever it is, it's going to carry it out. In fact, the use of glyphs can be traced back to the earliest human civilizations, right? Where they were used in everything from writing systems to sacred rituals. So, for instance, the ancient Egyptians used hieroglyphs, right? It's a system of pictorial symbols to represent words, sounds, ideas. Their glyphs weren't just tools for communication. They were tied to spirituality and mythology. So Egyptians believed that their hieroglyphs had a divine quality and act as a bridge between the material world and the spiritual realm. Each glyph held power and could evoke the forces of nature, deities, cosmic energies, right? So for instance, the Ankh, right? Everybody knows what the Ankh is, right? That's the Egyptian cross, right? It wasn't just the word for life in their language, it was a representation of eternal life and spiritual protection. In the same vein, Sumerians developed Cuneiform, and that's one of the earliest known writing systems. Their system was made up of like wedge-shaped symbols etched into clay tablets. So the Sumerians used glyphs to document everything from trade transactions to religious rituals. And they weren't just practical tools, of course. They were vessels of meaning and culture. Cuneiform glyphs could represent simple things like grain or water, but they could also embody broader concepts like divinity or power. The combination of different symbols allowed for creation of more complex ideas, much like how we use words today, right? So if we fast forward today, glyphs are still very much alive in the world. The context has changed a little bit, but the essence is still there. Every time you send a text message or scroll through social media, you're likely using glyphs in the form of emojis, right? They're tiny symbols, obviously, right, that convey ideas, words, thoughts, that kind of thing, right? A heart emoji might not require an explanation because it immediately conveys love or affection, right? So these are all glyphs. The modern glyphs are simpler than their ancient counterparts, but they still condense complex ideas down into something recognizable, right? But it does get more interesting, right? Glyphs can hold deeper layers of meaning, spiritual, mystical context. You know, unlike emojis, emojis are usually lighthearted, casual kind of thing. They're not usually like mystical, magical things, but maybe they could be, I guess, you know, depending on what type of energy you put into them. You know, there are glyphs designed to evoke certain energies and connect with certain aspects of life. For example, I'm a Wiccan, right? So I use the pentagram. And the pentagram is used by various spiritual magical practices. But it's not just a 5-pointed star, right? It represents the 5 elements: earth, air, fire, water, and spirit, right? And it often symbolizes balance, protection, and then alignment with nature. These are some of the contexts you can use it. If you use this in meditation or rituals, it is believed to bring you that energy, right? Along that way, the heart shape can be used as a symbolic or spiritual to represent love, right? Not just in the romantic sense, but as just a universal force just in general, right? In the same way, glyphs have the ability to connect us to ancient knowledge, energy, and wisdom. Their roots stretch deep into human history, and many people today still use symbols to enhance their growth, right? We talked about this. Is a wave of New Age, I hate that term, modern paganism, let's call it that, that's happening. And so a lot of these glyphs and a lot of these symbols are being used rather frequently. The pentagram, the Eye of Horus, the Ankh, the caduceus, that is the symbol for healing that we see all the time. These are glyphs that look for specific outcomes, right? It's like short form. It's like short form writing, but with a little bit more power behind it, So why would using a glyph nowadays be important? It's visually appealing, of course. But the real magic kind of lies in the fact that glyphs can be much more than just eye-catching. They can play a meaningful role. These symbols kind of hold deeper meanings, and they can help guide you, shift your energy, even create positive change in your life. It is a powerful tool for spiritual connection. It can help you boost personal empowerment, and of course, it is aesthetically pleasing, right? So it can boost your spiritual connection by, there are some people that use them on a daily basis, right? When you meditate, you focus on a glyph, you're essentially aligning yourself with that energy, right? Each glyph has its own unique vibration, and so by focusing on it, you're connecting to that vibration. This can help with manifestation. It can help with anything, So for example, right? Let's say the symbol of the sun or the moon could help you connect with those celestial energies, right? It could invite balance and harmony in your life. Or you might focus on a symbol that represents strength, courage, healing, right? All these things could be really great. When it comes to personal empowerment, there is an inherent message and energies in them, right? So when you focus on them, you are connecting to the deeper meaning of that iconology, right? So if you're feeling weak or uncertain or lacking energy, you focusing on a glyph that's associated with vitality or inner strength could help you boost that, right? And here's the thing, it could be anything. So as an example, the symbol of a lion or an ancient warrior glyph can help with confidence and courage, right? And that's all going to be helpful. Basically, these are tools to help you tap in that energy. And of course, it is pretty to look at. It makes great additions to art and tattoos if that's something you're into. Incorporating glyphs into your surroundings doesn't just improve the vibe of your space, but it can create a consistent, subtle reminder of the intentions you've set, right? So there's a whole bunch of different types of glyphs that you can look at. There's magical, there's alphabetic, there's astrological glyphs, there's mystical and alchemical glyphs, and we're kind of going to go through a little bit about each of those, right? So magical glyphs, right? So these are symbols that are used in rituals and spells, and they're associated with a wider range of concepts like love, protection, abundance, healing, all of that. To work with these glyphs, you could meditate on them, draw them in a journal, place them on the altar. The idea is about drawing focus on the glyph, and so that means you're aligning with the energies, and that's important. Alphabetic glyphs are something that I'm actually kind of interested in, because I saw this one person who was creating their own personal glyph, and then they would sign their spells and their book of shadows and things with that glyph, and it was very, very cool. And so I'm really interested in that. These tend to represent letters and sounds, so they can change, everything from ancient hieroglyphs, obviously, like I said, to modern alphabets. These are usually primarily used for communication, and they have a lot of cultural and historical weight, and you can learn a lot about beliefs and the practices of civilizations by really honing in on it. You can use these you're not going to use these in the same way as a magical glyph, but they can hold significance. Like I said, it could be like your autograph kind of thing, right? So the person I was looking at actually, like I said, created their own glyph so that they could sign letters with it. They could put it in their book of shadows, finish rituals off with it. They even, the one person I saw was going to put it, like, get somebody to etch it into a piece of some sort of crystal. I didn't remember what the crystal was, and then they were going to put it in jewelry and wear it. I think that's amazing. Astrological glyphs. I say gifts, guys. That's true. Astrological glyphs. These are intended to tie to the astrological signs, right? So if you're into astrology, these glyphs can help you better understand the energies in your birth chart. You can use the symbols in your personal practice by drawing them in a journal. Same kind of things, charging them under the sun, moonlight, simple meditating on them, all that kind of stuff. And every sign has their own glyph, right? Every planet has their own glyph. It's pretty interesting. And then you have alchemical and mystical glyphs. I don't want to keep wanting to say gifts. These symbols are usually represent like the elements or alchemical promises like transformation or enlightenment. So if you're like more into metaphysical or magical aspects of life, glyphs can be super powerful in this aspect. You might use them in your spell work, meditation. You can use them as decorative, like I said. So all of these different types are there, and I'm sure there's more. These are just the major types. How to work with glyphs? Well, that's a good question. Let's look at how to work with glyphs. All right, I'm pulling up my notes because once again, like I said, this is something new for me. One of the most common ways people work with glyphs is meditation. We've talked a little bit about that already. It's, find a quiet place where you won't be interrupted, look at the glyph you've chosen, take deep breaths. It's kind of similar to the way sometimes I say to use tarot cards in my Thursday episode. And by focusing on the glyph, you invite that energy into your consciousness, and which then can help you align with its meaning. This is all very, very good stuff, right? You can draw them if you're artistic. There's something about creating a symbol with your own hands that kind of like links you to it. It's kind of the same idea of like making food and all that. Like you're putting energy. My grandma used to say she would never write anything down or any measurements, to just be like baking soda. And I'd be like, Grandma, how much baking soda? She goes, by feel. And I'd be like, oh, and then I'd eat it, and I'd be like, oh, this is so good, I wish I had the recipe. She goes, you know what the secret ingredient is love. And that's the truth. Whatever you're feeling when you're making something, whether that be food, whether that be a candle, whether that be whatever, that energy goes into it. So if you're mad, that's going into it, and that's gonna be not great. So just think about that next time you're cooking a meal. You don't need to be an artist to draw them, by the way, guys. You're using magical glyph. You can draw it in your journal. You can set intention for the day. It's just that the act of creation really helps to reinforce your connection to the energy, and also for focus. You can get them tattooed on your body. This is a little bit more permanent, and but if it's something that you really stand for, like maybe it's one of your core values or something like that, this could be a really, really cool way to ensure that you're always reminded of it and always imbuing that energy. So I think that's pretty cool. You can charge a glyph with energy to make it more powerful. What I saw with this was that you could take it, it's much like charging your tarot cards or your crystals, put it in a special place under the full moon or in sunlight, whatever it is, and then that amplifies the energy, right? And that's kind of the core basic. There's so much more about glyphs. Like I've gone into 50,000 things about glyphs, but there's so much more. But this is just kind of a basic rundown. So first thing, they're more than decorative symbols. They have a lot of meaning and energies that you can utilize. And I think by encompassing them into a consistent practice, you could really amplify your practice, whether that's just incorporating in your journaling and your meditation, if you're actually doing spell work and your spell work, carving them into things, whatever it is. I think that glyphs are something that might be just the key to the next step of your personal growth, and really can help you unlock that spiritual awakening. So that's it, guys, for this week. I hope you enjoyed our little trip into glyphs, and I hope you got inspired to check some more stuff out about them. If you have any comments or anything, you can reach out to me. As always, the links to my social media are in the description box. You can also support the podcast there. At the very least, please and thank you, rate, review, share, comment, follow, all that kind of good stuff. Get me out there in the algorithm. And then there's also a link to the Medium publication that goes with this podcast, as well as my other podcast called Where All the Ladies At. So if you're into women and history, check it out too. All right, guys. Until next week, guys, stay safe, stay blessed. See ya.